Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dad was a submariner, sonar, on a fast attack sub during the Cold War. Lots of stories like, yeah, this one time I was in a place I can't talk about doing things I can't talk about. Here are a few stories I did hear. One time, he played me a tape marked with a bunch of numbers. Hear all sorts of marine life, whales, dolphins. All of a sudden, ping, followed by muffled voices in another language. Dad goes white, takes the tape out, and snaps it in half. I ask what it was. What was what? That sound on the tape. What tape? Going somewhere in North America to launch off a Tomahawk missile. Gets called into a briefing. Apparently Greenpeace was going to protest. Dad gets an M16 in 1911 instead of his normal shotgun. Dad is on top watch because sonar and the sub was surfaced en route. Pretty calm day. Out of nowhere, a fleet of hippies at full steam approaches. The fleet consisted of 5 or so dinghies and a fishing boat. One dinghy capsizes. 2 dinghies stop to help the now freezing hippies. The remainder of the fleet carries on. Dad can see that they have banners and fake blood that they are intending on mounting on the sub. They get closer. Dad raises his M16 and informs the hippies that he has orders to fire on them if they touch the ship. They get closer. Dad targets the nearest hippie. They all start screaming. In the panic, another dinghy capsizes. The fishing boat tries to turn around and starts sinking. Local Coast Guard comes and arrests them. The submarine fires off the Tomahawk. Doing some operator shit at some other time. Have SEALs on board. The crew is told to leave them alone. Dad has to share a space with them while studying or fixing something. Says it's extremely awkward. The SEALs just sit there, stare, and play cards. Out of the blue, one stands up and sucker punches another. They all brawl. They severely fuck each other up. After about 5 minutes, they stop and start laughing and resume playing cards. Dad is studying the submarine for a qualification, reading about some pipe from the reactor. Sits under it so he can look at it as he studies. All of a sudden, steam fills the compartment. Dad reaches up and closes the valve. Steam stops. Given a Navy Achievement Medal, LOK.JPG. One guy, we'll call him Barry, is the classic, I joined the Navy because I'd end up in jail otherwise type. Constant troublemaker. Barry was the type of guy who just couldn't help but get in trouble. He wasn't malicious, he was just a shit disturber. One day, the asshole chief tells Barry to get him a cup of bug juice. Barry gets his signature smile and goes down to the mess, pours a cup of bug juice, teabags the bug juice for good measure. Barry goes off on his way. The sub is leaving port. A rear admiral is topside, saluting the sailors and wishing them farewell. Dad is on watch, or topside for some reason. Barry comes up in line. Oh no, .gif. Barry is walking all funny. Tries to walk past the admiral. Sailor, is that how you treat a superior officer? No, sir. Then salute me. Barry gives a messed up salute, where he bends over kind of, keeping his arm pinched to his side. What the fuck was that? Are you capable of giving me a proper salute? Or are you not able to perform your duty? Now salute me. Barry snaps to attention. A bottle of whiskey falls out of his pea coat and smashes against the side of the sub. Barry's signature smile returns. The admiral is awestruck. 2 weeks bread and water. Another one. Barry is somehow let back onto the sub. The sub comes back into port. Barry is manning the telephone and is one of the last ones off the submarine. Someone from command calls. Barry is over this shit. Barry picks up and in his best New York accent says, "Who the fuck is this?" Whoever told my dad this story hears screaming through the phone. Barry, cool as ever, says, "I don't give a fuck. Can't you tell I'm fucking busy here?" Hangs up. Never got caught somehow. Dad starts a contest with a friend to see who can get the highest score on their rad box, basically a box that shows how much radiation the wearer has been exposed to. The friend tells his wife to put his box on top of their TV every night. When it comes time to turn them in, he and my dad get yanked and screened. The whole sub gets checked for radiation leaks. Buddy and Dad are quarantined in sickbay. They finally determined that it was faulty boxes. They somehow figure out who scored the highest. My dad won. The friend asked my dad how he did it. Dad hid his behind a pipe with a hotspot. You can tell because a hotspot is wrapped in lead blankets overnight. Dad won cigarettes on the next voyage. He got away with a lot of shit. He was an E5 when he got out, and I'm sure that his security clearance and the fact that he was on a sub that did some serious shit helped in that. Dad is in boot camp. A week in, a guy gets the nickname Butt Stink Buffy. Buffy refuses to shower and smells like shit. DIs find out and chew him out. He'll stand in the shower but not wash himself. Gets boils on his back. One night, the class gets sick of his shit and the extra PT that it brings. A blanket party that made Full Metal Jacket look like an English boarding school ensues. Buffy cries all night. Blanket party the next night because he cried. The drill instructors interrupt this one. Everyone is doing push-ups. Buffy has to stand in the middle of the bay yelling, "The recruit is a stinky, stupid little boy, and he hopes to be a man someday." In Subic Bay, Philippines, get told don't drink foreign beer because of additives, and don't go into the red light district. Go to the red light district with buddies. Get fucked up on American beer. A hooker starts following my dad, screaming and propositioning over and over again. Dad keeps saying no. Barry, the troublemaker, gets an idea. Gives the hooker $10 to follow them around. As the night goes on, some go off to get some. My dad and a few others decide not to because of wives. One guy decides to get a tattoo. Everyone thinks that's a great idea. Dad passes out in an alleyway with Barry and the hooker. Wakes up in the morning in a dumpster with Barry. Goes back to base. Back at the base, all of his friends have fucked up tattoos, crooked anchors, ugly mermaids, etc. Time to go home, thank God. On the sub, one guy goes to sick bay. The medic sighs and gives him penicillin. The next day, the area from his legs to his ribs was purple and swollen. The submarine has to surface for this guy to get air medevaced. Turns out he got a strain of the clap that was penicillin resistant, and he was going to die.
This isn't war-related, but my ex-girlfriend's father was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, and he told me the story while they were training. He told it to me years ago, so I may be shaky. Be training at Benning, doing some land navigation exercises. This is a multi-day exercise. At the end of this, the cadre bring in a truck full of food. They purposefully brought too much food. Everyone gets a plate to eat. Cadre asks, "Anyone else want any more? There is plenty here." Nobody wants any more. Cadre, is everyone sure they don't want more? Nobody speaks up. Cadre gets pissed and yells, "We were oh so nice enough to bring you all this nice, warm, steaming nourishment, and you're going to let it all go to waste? Line the fuck up." Everyone lines up with their plates out. The first guy got an entire plate of taters. The second guy got an entire plate of corn. The third guy got an entire plate of ham. This continued until they got to my ex's father. Ex's father gets an entire plate of mayonnaise. Cadre, eat it all. Your plate had better be licked clean. Oh, the horror.
I'd need to reconfirm some details of this story with my mother, since she's the one that told it to me, but I figure it might be at least a little interesting. World War II. My great-uncle is a bomber pilot for the Canadian Forces, participates in various bombing runs, flies a Lancaster with a whole bunch of others and drops hell on one group of people or another. One day, he loses his first rear gunner. It's a sad day. He liked the guy, and the crew tended to be pretty close. Next run, he loses another tail gunner, then another, then another. and another still. Gets to the point where almost every time he goes up in the air, he loses his tail gunner. Everyone else in the crew always makes it home. Of course, it starts to get to him. He believes it's his fault and that maybe he's cursed or something. Can't remember what happened to him in the end, but he was sent home alive before the end of the war. Those gunners haunted him to his dying days. I never did meet him, and my relatives say he was a good guy, but nobody was to talk to him about the war after that. Anybody who did never got a good answer out of him. That's just how he was. And then there was a relative before him who got sent into battle in the Great War only to come back paralyzed, to an extent thanks to getting gassed a mere 2 months in the trenches. Not much more to say about that mess. My family seems to have had bad luck in war for the most part. I'm sure there are other tales that my family has that I just haven't found out about because we don't talk about it that much. But the ones I know of have all been pretty depressing.
Be my dad. In shithole Gulf Storm. Specialist at the time and carries an M60. Has to sleep in a shitty hole while walking to nowhere with his squad. Wakes up in the middle of the night. Everyone covered in beetles. Fuck that shit. JPG. Crawls out of the hole and is yelled at by a sergeant. Anon, get back in the fucking hole. No, fuck that. Get back in here now. No, my job is to point a gun that way. I can do that outside of the hole. Fine. If you get shot, don't say I didn't warn you. Night passes. Wakes up and sees everyone else covered in beetles. Laughs his ass off. He and a couple other people also threw a dead snake in a guy's tent. He freaked out and tore a hole through his tent. He never got a new tent.
I have a couple. B. Grandpa. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, World War II Pacific Theater. First name is not flattering. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave him shit for it because he was grimdark. Eating one day, safe and sound on some conquered island. Tomorrow we're gonna build an airstrip. Suddenly a dude's head explodes. Japanese sniper. Japanese sniper gets found out ASAP. Sniper catches so many bullets he falls out of the palm tree in pieces. I was 7 when I first heard that story. Another. Grandpa is driving a bulldozer. Sees a wounded Jap crawling, runs him over. Weeks later, the airstrip is finished. Keep this area clean area off to the side of the runway among the palm trees. Grandpa is like, what the fuck, why? Corsair pilots get wind of this. They fly extra fucking low and barely clip the tops of the palm leaves with their props. Fronds everywhere. Grandpa forever hates marine aviators with a passion. Grandpa driving a bulldozer again, but not on an island in Burma or some shit. A sniper again. Takes a shot at Grandpa. Grandpa is unamused, raises the blade to protect from bullets and charges for the tree. Sniper is probably shitting bricks knowing he is tied to the tree. Grandpa pushes over the tree, keeps driving, runs over the sniper too. Grandpa backs up and continues plowing dirt. He always scared me as a kid, and when I knew he jovially ran over hapless Japanese soldiers in his younger days, he just got even more intimidating. Final story. 1945 Nagasaki. Grandpa's unit has the awesome task of cleaning up the city. Somebody asks what to do with the bones and charred bodies. Grandpa has a bulldozer. As predicted, he solves the problem the only way he knows how. My face when there is some spot in Nagasaki where my grandpa buried a bunch of roasted Japanese bodies. Probably more than one. Grandpa really hated the enemy. Later on. Most of Grandpa's unit has died of carcinoma and shit. Grandpa knows why. That big goddamn bomb,
Everyone says he's full of shit. Years later, he's proven right.
I've got one from my uncle. Get conscripted from a rural home in western Massachusetts. Leave and get all suited and booted up. Be a Huey Gunner, handling M60s all day. Around North Vietnam Army, always in danger of getting shot down or just plain shot. Almost gets killed time and time again, but somehow makes it through. Even took the Huey out to town and got piss drunk, then chased out by MPs. Not even caught. One day, he gets base duty, and his best friend instead rides machine gunner on a mission. The helo never makes it back. Got gunned down, and all on board died. Scrapes through the rest of his service without dying somehow, or even committing suicide. He's pretty knocked around, with PTSD to this day. Gets back and gets a job at Boeing, etc., doing engine stuff. Gets married, stable job, has a daughter. The daughter, at 16, gets diagnosed with brain cancer, dies young, and soon after he gets divorced. He's gotten better now, but is a broken man at his core. We all respect him in our family.
My lovable old grandpa was a badass during the Nam era. Navy personnelman who knew how to sail, and gets tapped to pilot swift boats during 2 tours in Vietnam. He gets tasked to pick up a group of Special Forces people and take them to another location on a hand-drawn map, and if he was late, the U.S. would disavow all knowledge of the mission. He knows he's going into shit he legally shouldn't. He's tearing ass through jungle rivers at speeds which cause the commander of the Special Forces personnel to get nervous and try to offer advice. My pop turns to him and tells an army captain to, "With all due respect, sir, either shut up and let me pilot the damned boat, or take command of it yourself." He made it to the evac site 45 minutes early. He later got assigned to a destroyer as chief personnelman when he made CPO, and proceeded to kick over 25 men out of the Navy for gross incompetence on his first day. When he was told when you can't do that by senior officers, he called an admiral whom he served with in the war that he was on a first-name basis with, who proceeded to sign the orders without question. I love my grandpa.
Not sure if there's any merit to this story, but I'd like to think so. Used to hang out at my dad's work when I'd see him on weekends. Basically sit at a boatyard and hang around. There was this one guy named Crazy Al who was in Nam. Always drunk or on some sort of drug, but overall a funny dude. Anyways, he's sitting in a watchtower one night tripping sack off LSD or whatever with a buddy. A tripwire set in the jungle gets triggered and flares pop. Al grabs an M60 and proceeds to spray $1,000 of ammo into the jungle. 1970s money. The jungle goes quiet again. The M60 barrel is fucked. Neither Al nor his buddy can move around without tripping on shell casings. Next morning, Al asks the patrol what the kill count was. "You got 3. "Just 3? "Yeah, rock monkeys. Jackass." He wound up getting in a shitload of trouble, but I couldn't tell you the specifics. I guess it was fairly common for monkeys to hit tripwires in his neck of the woods.
My great-uncle Walter apparently was some kind of sharpshooter in Normandy, Germany, and after the war got moved between different units regularly. Captured by the Germans in Africa, who he said were the best soldiers he ever encountered and treated him well. Handed over to the Italians, who he described as sadistic. Liberated in time for Normandy, and saw most of his friends mown down by German tanks as they were stuck in an open field outside Caen. Hiding behind the only bit of cover available, he sees a tank hatch pop open and the silhouette of someone looking through binoculars. Aims his rifle at the silhouette's chest and bang. Sees the silhouette slump over, crawls back to his own lines. After leaving the army, he would visit Normandy every anniversary, and later would visit schools to talk to kids about the war. A little girl asks him, "How many Germans did you shoot?" "I wasn't keeping count." When he died, we were expecting a small family funeral. Arrive at the church, and there are at least 100 old veterans who all knew him, and an honor guard from a dozen different regiments lining the road with flags. And there would be articles about his death in the local newspaper. One of my few regrets in life is not talking to him more while he was still alive. Shouldn't really feel guilty because I was literally a stupid little kid. But God, the things. The little things I could have asked him.
Dad spent part of his childhood in Vietnam. He opened up part of his time in Vietnam to me when he caught me watching a documentary on the war. Be Grandma and Dad on the family estate, circa 1960s. A supply truck comes through the front gate. An American G. I steps out of the truck and approaches Grandma. "I have gallons of milk. Do you want to be business partners? I give you the milk, you sell the milk at the market, we split 50-50. Grandma looks perplexed. "I have to hire workers to bring all this truckload of milk to the market. 40-30-30 split. 30 for the workers, 30 for me, 40 for you." The American GI thinks for a bit and makes the deal, hands over all the milk, and tells Grandma he will be back in a week. Fast forward a week later, the GI comes back. Grandma hands over his share. The GI suddenly says, "I have more milk, same deal, and I'll be back next week for the money." Grandma agrees. This goes on for weeks. Dad and Grandma are looking at this whole deal with a lot of confusion. It reaches the point where this becomes a weekly ritual. One week, the American G. I asked my grandma if she would like some oranges to sell. A week later, he shows up with a mixture of gallons of milk and crates of oranges. This goes on for a while until the American GI stopped coming. My dad never knew what happened to the American GI. When he told me that story, he told me how funny it was because he fondly remembers this story since he never saw so much milk and oranges, and he found the soldier to be rather odd. I gave this story some thought, and I never told my dad my hypothesis. I think my grandma and my dad dealt with a smuggling or money laundering operation. The soldier would use his weekly profit to supply either or a mixture of his drug, alcoholic, or prostitute fix.
Be grandfather. Decides to join the military. Thinks of joining the U.S. Air Force since his brother was an Air Force pilot. Fails every test. Doesn't join the Air Force. Fuck.jpg. Decides to join another branch. Joins the Navy. Few years later in the Navy. Feels good, man. Visits places across the world such as Kowloon, Hong Kong, Greece, etc. Ship sails for Vietnam. This can't go bad.jpg. Him and his friends' orders are to get on a patrol boat and patrol up and down rivers. A few hours later, him and his friends are all picking bodies up from the rivers and shipping them back home. Feels bad, man. Viet Cong troops start shooting at the boat. Grandpa picks up an M1 Garand chambered in 7.62 and starts firing back. Everyone on the boat sails back down the river. 30 years later. Doesn't want to talk about Vietnam anymore. Only tells snippets of what happened.
Be grandpa. Be in the Navy. Hear about some shit going down in Vietnam. Sent to the Gulf of Tonkin in 1963 as part of security operations searching Vietnamese ships for Viet Cong. Would go into the cargo holds of ships with a shotgun, looking for Charlie. 1965 rolls around. on patrol in the Gulf of Tonkin in a blue water PT boat, in the area of the Gulf of Tonkin incident but was not a part of it. Watches the first wave of U.S. troops assemble in South Vietnam. Was also responsible for delivering special forces during nighttime raids. Was shot at by large-caliber machine guns and RPGs. He left the Navy shortly after that.
I had a great uncle who was drafted into the Army and served a year in Nam. My granny, his sister, said he was different when he was discharged. He slept in the backyard with a shotgun and overreacted to noises. He re-enlisted after a few months in the Marines and served for 13 months and collected a Bronze Star, 2 Purple Hearts, and some other ribbons and medals. He kinda scared some of the girls and women in the family because he had a weird stare. But he was a great guy and took me fishing and squirrel hunting when I was a kid. I once asked him to tell me a war story. He said he was with a team on an observation post and called in an enemy attack. Artillery was short and killed everyone but him. He wouldn't say anything else about his last tour. He died a few years later. Cirrhosis. He was a pretty cool guy. He gave me my first gun.
Be great, Uncle Tiny. Be in the Marine Force Recon. Be in Vietnam, in the shit one day. Get captured by NVA. Get held at the Hanoi Hilton. Beaten for days by Charlie. Fast forward to a few years past the war. Over at his brother's house for Thanksgiving dinner. Falls asleep. Brother's wife goes to wake him up. He thinks it's Charlie. Grabs her by the throat. Brother has to slap him to get him to snap out of it. Even later. Works for a flour company, Wilkins Rogers, as a maintenance man for the whole East Coast. Company pays the expenses to fly him back home before the day's over, so he doesn't have to stay the night.
Story time. A relative of mine was in Vietnam before America knew what Vietnam was. He did SIGINT and electronic warfare in neighboring Laos too. These are black operations where to this day they will deny he was ever there. Even though he saw active combat, he is not considered a veteran because officially he was never there. He told me of the many 24-hour shifts he would pull, staring at consoles and listening to the radios. After a point, he says the brain starts to make things up. He sees a blinking light somewhere in the trailer and thinks it's Morse code, trying to tell him something. They always have to be ready for VC incursions. A lot of the other men have the same problems. Some go insane, etc. Sometime later, he and a group of fellow Americans were assisting some Vietnamese with something somewhere in Vietnam, crawling through a rice paddy when they're spotted by the North Vietnamese. One of his American buddies stands up from the ground, yells in Vietnamese, "We come in peace, don't shoot," and then promptly gets shot. A gunfight breaks out, and my relative freezes, not firing back, not moving. A friend grabs him by the shoulders and shakes him, over and over, screaming to focus, to wake up. My relative comes to and begins firing and taking cover again, and somehow gets out alive. Lots of crazy shit like that I can't remember or don't know the details of. He got sprayed with Agent Orange, spent time with lots of hookers in Saigon, listened to North Vietnamese radio intelligence, things of that nature. Later on, he'd spy on the East Germans and do some other covert shit nobody will admit happened. He kinda made Vietnam sound fun, honestly.
Plain GIs on in Lao Valley VC are holding the fuck out of Charlie. Team leader is smacking it with arty and napalm, and we have like 2 squads rushing it, but it's not doing shit. Noob riflemen are just running straight into toe poppers and tripwires. We're holding on to Delta, but it's getting swarmed from every fucking side. Transport pilots are trying to do drops on the terraces to the east, but any guys coming in that way are getting picked off by machine guns and snipers. Loach pilots keep spotting tunnels on pretty much every side of Point Delta. But Cobra Pilot doesn't do shit aside from fling rockets at Charlie. Everybody else keeps hammering Charlie or trying to camp at Delta. I'm playing pointman and squad leader. Get killed at Delta, spawn in by Foxtrot. I decide to take my guys to look for enemy spawn tunnels. We push up the river between Charlie and Delta. I tell my guys to keep their heads low and not shoot unless we're getting shot at. Enemy team misses us completely as we flank around Delta. Team leader calls in air recon, see like 4 tunnels nearby. Start leading my guys towards them. VC are spawning in like 10 feet in front of me and I'm just blasting at them with my stakeout. We kill 2 tunnels, the enemy team realizes what's up, they start hunting for us, spend 10 minutes watching my guys get slaughtered, then spawn in on me, then get picked off again a minute later. Constantly switching between laying low and looking for tunnels and picking off VC and stragglers. Always trying to stay alive so my squad doesn't lose their spawn. The line between hunter and hunted blurs further. Can hear their dirty VC talk and AK fire all around me. Track them around rock outcrops and vegetation by their footsteps, ambushing and killing Charlies with number 4 buckshot. Run out of ammo, switch to sidearm. Charlie comes running around the corner, sprays me with his PKM, pop him in the throat. Watch him fall to the ground. One hand clutches his throat, the other reaches feebly in the air. I can hear him saying something in a language I don't understand. He's choking on his own blood. I think he's begging for help. Stare at him and wonder how far I've gotten from Delta or the riverbed. I wonder how far I've gotten from home and how far I've gotten from the innocent, fresh-faced noob I was when I first played in the closed beta. My screen goes black. I was killed so quickly by his buddy I didn't even hear the shot. We lose Delta, and then the match. All that suffering, all that fear, all those good men I lost, who had to wait 30 seconds to respawn again. None of it made a difference because of my fucking incompetent teammates. War is hell.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.